just invest $35 or so. Get yourself. It doesn't matter if you get it from us. I don't care where you get it from. Get yourself a total dissolved solid TDS meter. Take the guesswork out of things. Don't become a statistic. More and more people are finding themselves chronically ill, lack of energy. They're just drawn down. They can't seem to get rid of a cold or a bronchial infection or a sinus infection. You got to start by, first of all, knowing what you're putting in your body. Our groundwater is worse and worse and worse as more and more aerosol toxins are being sprayed in the upper atmosphere. It is not just some wacky conspiracy theory. I got to emphasize that this is proven more and more and more as time goes on. But take responsibility right now. You want to break the barrier of these heavy metals entering your body. Check your water. Check your total dissolved solid level. Now, Dr. Dean, when people find out, as they will, when they find out that their water that they're drinking is registering hundreds, multiple hundreds of units of total dissolved solids, how can they get a unit, a countertop unit, or something that they can test themselves that they know now that their TDS has dropped to zero? How about that?
Yeah, there is several ways of looking at filtering water. There's carbon-activated filters. There's distillation. There's reverse osmosis. First, let's look at the best way of getting it to zero or near zero, and that's obviously distillation. In the case of rainwater, just to give you an example, when the rainwater comes down, it's picking up what? Oxygen. It's also picking up whatever's in the air at the time. That's why if you do collect rainwater, I recommend that you use a carbon-activated filter. And there are people that do this. I've got a friend who does this, and he runs it through a carbon-activated filter, and then he supplements his water with minerals. It's a good charge of water, and it's the best. We're trying to essentially get back to the place where we're drinking water that's as natural as possible, and that's why distillation is a recommended method. I also recommend reverse osmosis, but you have to keep in mind that reverse osmosis doesn't take it all out. It takes out most everything, but it can't take out the very tiny particles of fluoride, which comes from fluorine and the element there. When fluoride gets in the body, it's a whole other topic, but it has a number of detrimental effects on the body, one of them primarily in our thyroid, where it displaces the iodine, and we've got an epidemic of thyroid hypofunction in this country, right? Sound familiar? And also the VOCs. We can't do that with an RO system. But
also, let me also jump in. The trihalomethanes, the THMs, that's the chemical byproduct of chlorination. If your water's been chlorinated at all, the chlorine is going to react with the humic and natural humic acid structures of all waters, and that will create something called trihalomethanes. That goes right through the permeable membrane of your reverse osmosis. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Quite so. And so when you have limited means of getting those things out, we do often say distillation being the best way of doing so. There is a unit that you carry on your website. In fact, I've just purchased one from you on that very issue because I've used distillers before, but I'm upping the ante. I want to have.
Yeah, Dr. Dean, let me just explain some simple things, and these are misconceptions about distilled water. When it's rebirthed, when it's created again, it just cracks the the hydrogen and oxygen barriers, the steam, which is very definition released hydrogen and oxygen ions, that it condenses back into its pure form. The VOCs, the volatile organics, the contaminants are basically flushed out of the steam cloud. Okay, that's a very simplistic description of what a distiller works. But yeah, you said it in the first half hour. Let me just reiterate: distilled water, as it comes back, it's powerfully inert. It's neutral. Okay, it is, but it's better than deionized. So you can do the same thing with purifying water, meaning the lack of TDS, by putting water through a series of chemical beads that causes the water to lose its polarity. The contaminants then are bound to the beads. The water comes out at 0 TDS, but it has a highly positive electronic charge, which simply means that the hydrogen and oxygen molecules are stripped of electrons.
That's correct.
Even though it's 0 TDS, it's dangerously toxic to drink deionized water. I'm telling you, folks.
That's
don't
right.
drink.
The O3, as it is 3 singulates of oxygen, or it's sort of an oxygen molecule and a half, if you think of it that way. And the definition of a free radical is its unstable electron. But what we're talking about here, when you have substances that are in water, and you use a machine like an ozonator, which they're available on the market, what it does is it disinfects the microbes, the bacterium, the substances, but it doesn't take out these things. So
exactly.
It's very important to understand that if you can get clean water from rain collectors or distill it, we still recommend adding oxygen to it. And I can go a little bit into that a little later, but we're basically defining how you get clean water. And to distill it first is what we feel as the most important process under the circumstances that we're facing with so many additives.
Oh, golly. And this is the point I just wanted to bring out, and it's really critically important. I have proven this over and over again, demonstrated. It's a simple experiment to show. But you take the rebirth water of the distiller, okay? Before you drink it, folks, you need to just let it sit out in a glass container exposed to sunlight for 2 or 3 hours. What sunlight is, light, photons of light are H-negative ions, okay? We're talking negative. When something has an extra electron or two, it becomes negatively charged. Sunlight is hydrogen ions negatively charged. This is what gives plants their life. The plants take hydrogen, negatively charged hydrogen ions via sunlight and generate it into life that we consume as human beings. Vegetable matter is simply that. So water is just an hour or two will charge those ions and give it negatively charged. What I do, Dr. Dean, you've been a guest at my little factory that I have.
Yeah.
In my huge tank, this is the basis of all of my mineral supplements. Everything that I do is based on this simple, I have a medicinal grade 7-stage distiller this thing makes the water as pure as possible. It qualifies as medicinal grade. It's what goes into your IV bags if you're in a hospital or whatever. This has to be extremely pure water. So I begin with that medicinal grade. It's got the lowest TDS count on the planet. Okay, so I have that in a big, huge tank, and then the tank 24/7 is hit with UV, ultraviolet rays. Now, UV lights, whether it's a tanning booth or these lamps, are just like sunlight. They keep the water charged with these hydrogen ions that are that have a negative charge. It means they have extra electrons. So by the time we're done, 24/7 in my tank, this water is flat out chock full of these life-giving electrons. All right, that is such a huge missing link in naturopathy and nutrition, Dr. Dean. You know that. So
that's why we talk about this, because it is so important. It's missed, and things that are dealt with, for example, things like pH, they take a back seat, if you don't mind me saying so, to this particular piece. They're secondary.
pH, yeah, pH is just simply percentage or parts hydrogen. That's what pH is.
Right. And if it's neutral, the body can change. It's sort of you have to think of why there's a lot of marketing going on about drink alkaline water, because if you're acid, you're not going to heal. And people will, but they are missing the main component, and that is that the water has to be clean enough for it to be taken into the cell, to be received. The pH is only, it's important, but it's better to have neutral or even acidic water that's clean than to have alkaline water that is not.
Okay. Let's jump into that, because I'm sure a lot of people listening to this, our listening base, our demographics, Dr. Dean, most of the people that listen to the show are already on this. Okay, they already are into naturopathic remedies and that versus the pharmaceutical sorcery. Here is such an important thing to get through your head, folks, and it's so basic. Yeah, the cells themselves must be in an alkalized state. Now, what does that mean? It means the cells are exuding alkaline substance, which means they're respirating correctly. If they're not respirating, they're going to be in a hydrogen-rich or acidic structure. Now, I get the biggest kick, Dr. Dean, of people hawking these alkalizers, and they're saying, look what Otto Warburg did. Look at, cells have got to be alkaline, not acid. So here you go, drink and consume alkalizing products. They don't understand at all what Warburg was showing. If they did, they would know that Warburg gave a list of foods that he found in his decades of research that cause the cells to be alkaline. These foods that he recommended to consume, top on the list are citrus fruits and foods that are acidic. Now, how does this work? Why does consuming lemons or limes or lemon juice or grapefruit juice or orange juice help the cells become alkaline? It's no-brainer. Orange juice, lemon, lime juice, grapefruits, these fresh fruits, whether it's apples or whatever, they're all acidic. And the acidic structure is H3O, not H2O. It's an extra ion of hydrogen that causes the solute to become acidic. When you consume the citrus, when you consume the vegetables that measuring the pH, when you juice them, when you mix them up and test them with the pH strip, they're all acidic, every single one of them. What happens is that extra hydrogen ion at the cellular level, Dr. Dean, causes the cells to start respirating. They start taking in oxygen again, and then they can measure in your extracellular fluid that it becomes alkaline. In other words, you reverse it. The body reverses what is consumed through the gastrointestinal tract. That's a very simple truth to understand. If you take raw meat, if you take cooked steak and put it in a puree and blend it up till it's a mass and measure the pH, oh my goodness, red meats are alkaline. You consume a bunch of red meat consistently without balancing out, you're going to become acidic at your cellular level, and you're going to get have a very high risk of cancer. All right? And Dr. Dean, in water science, that this is best described by the ocean itself. Ocean water is very high in total dissolved solids, extremely high. On a TDS meter, it would go into the thousands range. Okay. By measuring the pH of ocean water, you also find it's highly alkaline. Why can't you sit on a life raft like the ancient